Hi, friend. You're in the right place. This is the Beauty and Burnt Toast. Life gets a little messy, faith gets real, and hope shows up when we least expect it. Guests pull up a chair to share their stories, the good, the hard, and the how did that even happen moments. So grab your coffee, maybe some actual burnt toast, and settle in. This is the Beauty and Burnt Toast. Welcome back to our final episode of our 4-part series on the Beauty and Burnt Toast. This series has been called Listening to Your Body, Deborah's Story of Breast Implant Illness. On this final episode, we're calling it Finding My Way Back. It's about recovery, and it's more like a scribble than a straight line, and Deborah's story is no exception. We'll talk about what healing really looks like, hormones doing their things, and how faith quietly shows up when we least expect it. Spoiler, grace is the best accessory you can wear. So let's get into it. So we talked about your surgery on the last episode. We're out of surgery. You've seen what came out of your body. Now what?
So I knew that I would need to move forward with a good detoxification protocol in place. I would also need to be in tune with my body, with what was happening, because a lot of changes were about to start beginning additionally. And that most importantly, I very much needed to follow the post-operative instructions given to me by my surgeon, Dr. Fink.
I want to just say real quick, follow your post-op instructions.
Yes.
So many people try to jump out too early and you're not healed. Like you can really mess yourself up if you don't do what you're supposed to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
The
remember
first
that.
time that implants went into my body when I was a very young woman, I was very picky about my home, my floors being clean, that kind of thing, like most mothers are. And I was frustrated because I, at the time, didn't have anyone else to kind of do some cleanup at my house. And I got down on my hands and knees mopping something up in the floor not that long after having that first set of implants put in. And I popped a stitch.
Oh no.
Yeah, so yeah, listen to what your doctor says. But most plastic surgeons nowadays have a very, and surgeries in general, they have a very detailed post operative instruction list that you should follow. And some of those basic beginning things were I didn't want to sleep totally flat in bed because sleeping just a little bit propped up on a bit of a wedge helped with keeping inflammation at bay.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, any surgical procedure is an insult to injury to the body. The body's very smart. If we fall and hurt our knee or stub a toe, what happens? It gets red, it swells up, there's inflammation at the site.
Yeah.
Well, we already had all of this internal inflammatory process going on. And now we've kind of added salt to the wounds, literally, because we've gone through a very extensive surgical procedure and there's a lot of inflammation going on in the
Yeah.
chest. And so while healing initially, the one thing that I'm very grateful for with Dr. Fing, which differs with different plastic surgeons on their thoughts on this, but she does use drainage tubes.
Okay.
And those tubes are inserted during the surgery. And my wonderful husband took care of managing those, emptying those, keeping up with the output, how much was coming out in a 24-hour basis on each side, because the nursing staff who provide concierge care follow you one-on-one and very closely, call every morning to get that report from either you or whoever your caretaker happens to be with you while you're recovering. And in my case, I was recovering and staying there for 10 days. The average is anywhere from 3 to 5 days,
Okay.
usually when tubes come out. But because of the fact that I had a lot going on in my chest, residual capsules, about 6 hours worth of surgery, and super huge implants, it took about 10 days before all of that inflammation became under control in the form of a lesser amount being evidenced coming out from those drain tubes. And so those numbers, when they're given to the clinic, actually tell you, hey, it's time. We know what that number is when it's time to come in for the tubes to be removed.
What was your pain like during the recovery process?
Well, I mentioned having the digital block during surgery. So I only had brought with me some over-the-counter extra strength Tylenol, and I knew that unless absolutely needed, narcotics are not prescribed, which I was actually glad to hear that
Okay.
because, if they're needed, those can and will be provided. But that digital block gives you a window of anywhere of up to 5 days, sometimes maybe 7,
Okay, so it
of
lasts a while.
having more pain free. Now, part of the key to keeping that pain at bay is, again, adhering to the rules, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those, but also keeping yourself well hydrated and not just becoming a couch potato or staying in a bed, because that's not what you need to do.
Yeah.
So I opted for doing research on the area and staying in a place where I could have an Airbnb. And I stayed in a quaint little town that was like Mayberry on steroids. So cute, with everything readily available, and it's all just wonderful. Called Sugarin Falls, but it's spelled Chagrin, so it looks nothing like it sounds. But I got out and I walked immediately. I ambulated, as we call it, from day one, little at a time. And of course, I made my husband go with me. And then when I got to the point that I could do it by myself within a couple days, I was out walking up and down the block, looking at all the little shops. I mean, it was just perfect thing to keep your mind off of, hey, I'm here healing. It was like quite the adventure. So, anything that you want to look at, jewelry shops,
Yeah.
stones, all these things we love. But anyway, the healing issues with getting the drain tube out when I presented before being discharged, right after those were removed, I cannot lie. It's painful. Drain tubes are in there, quite a way. And I knew that it's very important to take a nice deep breath before they do the pull, and that helps. But I'm a pretty tough chick, as you know, and so it was okay.
Yeah.
No big deal. Things went well. When I got home, or actually before I left to go home, had to make sure that one of the biggest rules that I stuck to and kept sticking to for quite some time, probably even longer than she recommended, was to maintain what's called T-Rex, just like the dinosaur, T-Rex arms. And I've brought my little handy dandy scarf with me. This one's made of bamboo, by the way, so it can get kind of tight. And if you can see that, I've brought it up around my body from my waist level so that basically the only thing I can do is bend my arms like a T-Rex from the elbow down. So yes, you can feed yourself. Yes, you can kind of touch or brush your hair and, brush your teeth, wash your face. You can go to the bathroom, you can finagle that. But you see what else happens? I can't take those elbows out away from the body. You don't want to be doing chicken wing flap with the arm because of the degree of repair of muscles. And a lot of people mess up. A lot of people don't tie their arms down. A lot of people tie their arms down for a day or two, and then they're like, I can't handle this. Oh, I've got to wash my own hair. Trust me, go to the hair salon.
So how long did you say you did that for?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
At least getting my hair done for 2 weeks. And then my husband did help me a little bit, with the shower. But as far as the pain goes, about day 6, because tough chick here decided that I was going to think that with my walking, it wouldn't hurt to grab a bagel to bring back for my husband. And there was a nice little Einstein bagel shop in Sugar and Falls. And, a woman is a sucker for a good deal. What can I say? And they had like the baker's dozen. And I thought, well, okay, That's bread. That should not be heavy. I could manage that. I can T-Rex and just wrap it, on my
Yeah.
arm and hold it close, and it will all be good. And so that caused some pain. It didn't hurt anything, obviously, because I didn't pull the arms away from the body, but they gladly wrapped the bag on the arm for me, and I walked home or to the Airbnb that block. But I learned my lesson. Uh-uh.
Don't be picking anything up.
Don't
Yeah.
be picking anything up.
Mm-hmm.
Let someone wait on you. Milk it for all it's worth, as they say. But I had a very good nurse. And with all of the food that we purchased from Dr. Fing's office and what her Fing Fit clinic, prepares that you can come in and buy, we kept that in a full-sized refrigerator and enjoyed staying in a nice, house,
Mm-hmm.
making me feel comfortable and not like motel where you
Yeah.
hear a lot of other sounds and disturbances, because I think tranquility is really imperative for healing.
Yeah.
So I really advocate, I know a lot of people do opt for the hotels, and you do you, but what I did was the Airbnb route, which worked great for me.
So once you finished your stay there, is there a process where you go back in and they check everything before you went out of town? How did staying in touch kind of happen after that?
Since I was an out of state client, the way that it worked for me was basically I was over there several times before discharge because I was doing hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments every day.
Okay.
And I started that day one following my explant. Wow, that really
Made a big
expedites
difference.
healing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And the nice thing was, I would let the staff know to tell the chefs in her FingFit cafe to prepare one of her high protein smoothie drinks for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I'm getting out of hyperbaric oxygen, I've got something to hydrate me, get all that protein in,
Mm-hmm.
which protein is vital
Mm-hmm.
for healing tissue. So, but aside from having that done, and aside from gearing up to for discharge and the follow up that they provided. Basically, it was the daily thing by phone, then seeing me when I came in for the hyperbarics, but not in an exam, just to,
Yes.
hey, everything going okay? If
Yeah.
not, let us know. And I basically came in the day that the nurses said, okay, tomorrow she's going to remove your tubes. And I kind of questioned because I said, wait a minute, tomorrow's Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
She said, yeah, but she's coming in for you. So she's that kind of doctor.
Yeah.
It's not, well, the weekend's here. You'll have just to stay in town a couple more days. So sorry. She does those
Yeah,
things.
that's
So she
nice.
goes the extra mile for her patients.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very refreshing and very welcomed. So went in, they pulled the tubes, and we had already packed up and planned to head on back to Alabama.
Mm-hmm. So once you got home, how long did it take you to really feel back to normal?
That's a great question. Define normal.
More normal than what you were
More
feeling
normal.
before.
Well, there were several things that had begun to
Mm-hmm.
feel normal.
Well, I know your breathing was one
My
of the first things.
breathing
Yeah.
was one of the first things, yeah, so I could breathe, and that was great. The other thing that I had noticed, which, oh, this still just, when I think of it, it almost gives me chills, but the wonderful man who had still great friends with us, who had rented us the Airbnb in Sugar and Falls, he had this beautiful flower garden out back and a little waterfall, and he had some anti-gravity chairs out there by it. And I remember the day after surgery, I went out just to sit down and listen to the water and take it all in and take deep breaths and meditate and pray. And as I went out there, I did like I'm doing now, as you see, and I have to move the microphone, but I sat down and put my back up against that anti gravity chair because, you have to use your legs to
Mm-hmm.
kick it back. And it dawned on me, it doesn't hurt for my back to touch a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all of that intercostal pain that had been going on, feeling like someone stabbing me constantly with a hot poker between all of my ribs, I always sat with my back away from the chair.
Mm.
That was something that I had learned to do. You talk about trying to sleep at night in the recliner.
Yeah.
That's
It's
why I
tough.
couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would wedge pillows, try to do side to side. Try sleeping sideways in a recliner.
Mm.
Doesn't work too well. But nonetheless, I started praying. I started crying. I started uplifting my voice to heaven
Mm-hmm.
in that garden and saying, "Oh, Heavenly Father." I mean, that sounds like a little thing, but that was a big
Yeah.
thing because that told me pain is trying to leave my body. Now, did it leave immediately? No. There were times that it would flare.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, anything that's connected to autoimmune diseases cause what are called flare ups anyway. And so my whole body is trying to, first of all, naturally heal from foods.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the best way to help your body to detoxify immediately following having removal of very toxic implants. You don't want to just start throwing all kinds of things inside your body.
Mm-hmm.
So your body is saying, whoa, wait a minute. I'm trying to process the food. What's the DNA on this deal? And okay, so that's too much communication for the body, too much overload. And through proper fluids and proper and organic and otherwise foods, especially foods that are known to not cause inflammation in
Mm-hmm.
the body, that's your first line of defense with getting started. The other thing for me was making sure that I stayed ahead of pain if I continued to have pain. Did I? Yes.
Okay.
So extra strength Tylenol
Mm-hmm.
became my friend as needed.
How long do you think the pain lasted?
Pain overall in general for me, from I'll call it the intense pain from the surgery, the
Mm-hmm.
muscles, and all of that, probably 2 months.
Okay.
Probably 2 months. Following that, it was actually years.
Wow.
I ended up at about 4 years post op as a part of my overall healing plan for me that I had worked on and my detective work as a root cause analyst, nurse practitioner in functional medicine who wants the answers to everything. Ended up going and getting full evaluation of my muscles, my capabilities, my range of motion, and found that even 4 years, wish I'd have done it sooner, post-operatively, I was still deficient in that left arm.
Hmm.
Well, look at the number of years that I'd
You
had
dealt with that.
issues going
Yeah.
on. I mean, granted, I was right hand dominant, but I'm a drummer
Mm-hmm.
also, aside from being a piano player, so I'm quite ambidextrous. And you've got to have a lot of movement,
Yes.
going
Mm-hmm.
on for those kind of activities. And they were telling me, wow, you need physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up at 4 years post explant going through a full year of physical therapy and water aquatic therapy. And that was eye opening,
Mm-hmm.
but it was marvelous.
Is that what got you hooked?
That's what got me hooked. I'm a water person.
Yeah.
Yes. And not so much that I go by astrology or anything like that, but I was born under the sign of water. I'm an Aquarian, so
Well,
maybe there's some truth to
so
that.
what about your eyes? When did the redness really kind of go away?
Well, interestingly enough, with that, at 2 weeks post op, I told my husband, I said, I need to go see my buddy, Dr. Vandiver. And I said, I want to introduce you to him too, because you'll like him and you need to get established. He goes, okay, we'll go. So my husband Dennis goes with me, and we go in and sit down in the room. 2 weeks now, and I told him, I said, "Hey doc, I've got something to tell you. I have figured it out. I know
Mm-hmm.
what was wrong with my eyes." And he goes, "For real? Okay, lay it on me, girl." So I start telling him the background pathophysiology of the inflammatory process and the things with the heavy metals and the autoimmune response, and I went into all that and all the connectivity and that with the eyes. And he said, well, I think you have something.
Mm.
He said, but don't get too excited because, when you go in for surgery, typically speaking, they do sometimes give you steroids, and steroids are going to increase your intraocular pressure. So let's see how those IOPs look today. But you're only 2 weeks, so don't be expecting
Yeah.
miracles here, you know. And I said, Doc, go ahead. Look, I'm telling you, my visual acuity is going crazy. I noticed that I could see without even wearing glasses, which hadn't happened in a long
Yeah.
time. And I don't mean reading glasses, I mean, visual,
Yeah.
just for seeing. And so he looked in one eye and he started to giggle and he backed up. And I said, What? And we're good friends.
Yeah.
And he said, well, hang on, let me look in the other eye. And Dr. Vandiver looks in the other eye and he goes, Praise God. And he starts jumping up and down. And I go, Praise God, what? He said, Man, he said, do you know every time I have a woman come in here with the same situation you've had for 7 years, your face comes before me. It's like God was trying to tell me something, that this girl has or is going to have the key. He said, I see so many women, they form the chalazions, they get all of the problems with hordeolums and styes. They get severely red eyes. Their visual acuity goes crazy. They develop high intraocular pressure within their eyes, and I can't figure out why. And he said, Deborah, frankly, I have to tell you, I can tell you now, I was afraid you were going to go blind on me. That brought me to tears because
Yeah.
he had not openly admitted that. Now, I love him dearly. We talk all the time. We're friends. And we run medical questions by each other, and he would call me and say, Hey, the twins are sick. What do you think? So he's that kind of a good friend.
Yeah.
But when he jumped up and down and started praising God and he told me about that, he said, Deborah, your pressures in your eyes are perfect.
Wow.
They're null. There's no inflammation. It is gone. I am not believing this. And I will tell you, I also let him know that I had stopped all of the eye drops that would decrease the pressures 2 months prior
Wow.
because I felt inspired to do that because I knew that my eyes would be healed and I believed that. And they were. So I got up and we jumped up and down together and we hugged each other. And my husband's going, It's already fixed. I said, See, I told you. Now that's God. So as a result, my ophthalmologist wanted to know everything about Dr. Fing, and he said, I want a part of her research. I've
I
got to be on
bet.
board with this.
Yeah.
And what can we do to help other women going forward? So that was my eye issue. Following that, I also had other things, and I took my body systems systematically, one by one. I knew that, the heart and the lungs are sister organs. And obviously, I'd had some kind of lung problem going on, which I could breathe fine after the explant, but I needed to make sure that my lungs didn't suffer any permanent damage. And it's just amazing how God puts things into our lives that He does for such a purpose because on down the road, He knows the future and He knows we needed that connectivity through that purpose so that His glory can be fulfilled
Yeah.
through those paths that He sends us down. And when I'd first moved to Huntsville, one of my jobs as an LPN was working for an amazing pulmonologist by the name of Dr. Luther Corley. And he's a sweetheart of a person, and he married a nurse practitioner that's one of my great friends. And so I knew that I needed the lungs checked out, so I knew who I was going to go see. Hadn't seen him in a long time. And so we chatted a bit, and I told him my story. And Dr. Corley looked at me and he said, Deborah, getting breast implants out of your body is the smartest thing you can ever do. Do you know how many women that I see that develop full-blown sarcoidosis just because they made the choice to get breast implants?
What is that?
Sarcoidosis is a disease that inflames the lungs, causes permanent scarring, permanent damage,
Wow.
breathing difficulties. And he said, we're going to run a battery of tests on you. I'm glad you're breathing good now, but he said, man, that PFT, that pulmonary function test that you sent over, he said, wow, 85. You don't look 85 to me. I said, well, I'm not, Luther. You know me, I'm not 85. He's older than me, even. But he ran a battery of all sorts of tests, did all kinds of challenge tests, made sure there was no asthma, no COPD, nothing. And when I went back and follow up, he said, no permanent damage.
Wow.
But you're fortunate. He said, Deborah, I have seen other women in follow up, and they're they're not so lucky.
Mm.
They do end up with damage. He said, have you also had your heart evaluated? I said, well, that's next.
Mm-hmm.
So, wonderful cardiologist in town that I'd been taking my mother to for a number of years. So I knew who I wanted to see. And plus, I had also worked with this group. So I'd worked over at the Congestive Heart Failure Clinic over at
Mm-hmm.
Crestwood. And so, with my love for cardiology and all of that just kind of went hand in hand. So there was already
Had your
that connect
connections.
with
Yeah.
that one. And so I go in to see Dr. Kelly Smith, and he's such a hoot. We had a barrel of fun, and he said, well, girl, that sounds like bad news with implants. I said, yes, sir. So can you check me out, Doc? And so he did a full workup battery of all sorts of cardiovascular tests. And then he told me, he said, Deborah, I wish that I had a heart like yours.
Wow.
He said, you have a fantastic and amazing heart. It looks excellent.
Awesome.
You have no problems. I said, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Check off that box.
So, what about as far as weight, hormones, all of that? Did you see any fluctuation in any of that after the procedure?
Yes, slowly, but keep in mind the body has such a huge overload
Mm-hmm.
of hormonal balance for such a long time that in my opinion is one of the slowest things to eventually get processing through the body and get
Mm-hmm.
resolution from. Okay? And I actively started working on that and knew, which Dr. Fing had told me, in the consult, she said, hey, Deborah, you're functional medicine certified and you know what I'm talking about with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. You don't ever get anything synthetic, you know
Mm-hmm.
better, but you're going to absolutely need to get on those when you get home. Because I had been on them previously
Mm-hmm.
for a while, but then some things had happened, and I can't remember exactly now because of the brain fog. But for whatever reasons, at the time that I presented to have them removed for the explant, I was not on BHRT.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely had everything evaluated and tested. And again, you know, had that connectivity with the doctor in town, Dr. DeGraff here in Huntsville, where back in 2010, I partnered with her, owned part of the clinic area with her, and leased, and basically managed bioidentical hormone replacement therapies for other women and for men.
Yeah.
And so I know hormones inside and out
Mm-hmm.
and had certified in that as a part of my A4M training back in like 2007 for anti aging holistic functional medicine. So, again, another puzzle piece and
Mm-hmm.
another bit of knowledge that God had given me, which says, you know how to heal yourself, so
Yeah.
keep working on healing and doing it through me because He gave me that knowledge base. Again, nothing that
Mm-hmm.
I have. It's not me, it's Him. So I continue to remain on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy because it is a lifesaver. And especially being a full fledged menopausal woman
Mm-hmm.
at my age, I would not think of taking the risk of falling down and being like my sweet mother, breaking a hip
Mm.
because, we develop issues with our bones
Yeah.
if we don't have our hormones intact. We have issues that happen with our skin. And we have issues, not that it necessarily matters to everybody, but it becomes apparent in women as they get older because we age at a different rate if we don't keep our estrogen levels where they're supposed to be.
Mm.
And in our 40s, excuse me, in our 40s even, those numbers start to decline. And we know that. So it's not about putting something in your body that's going to, bolus you up, that's what you don't really need. It's about maintaining what's there as we decline with aging to help with the anti-aging process, as we know in medicine.
Yeah.
The safe way.
Ladies, if you're close to my age, get ahead of it. 40's knocking. Better to be prepared than have to deal with
Better
the
to be
consequences
prepared.
later. Yes.
And if for any reason, ladies, you're 30, 20, 30, not even 40, and you have breast implants are huge hormonal disruptors because of all the heavy metals. So, double whammy. Don't wait until you're 40 to get your hormones checked. Get
There
it
you
done
go.
early on.
Yeah. Well, what did you see weight-wise after you had the procedure? I know you said it took a while for hormones and everything to kind of level out, but you said you had experienced weight gain before?
I did, and my
Mm.
weight fluctuations and my insulin levels in my body were just all over the place. And so, in time, as things normalized, one of the biggest challenges, even for me, with someone who's degreed in this arena, was to try to find a good balance. So, I'm trying to eat the right things, I'm trying to eventually have the right type of exercise
Mm.
because as you change, the form of even exercise that you do is important. You know, for example, me at my age, getting on a treadmill, running, doing cardio, doing those things, that's not what you do at my
Yeah.
age. Not because I don't have the ability, and yes, I own a treadmill. However, you know, studies have shown, and we know medically, that it's much more important to maintain muscle mass
Mm.
because that's what I run the risk of losing as I age in this lovely decade of my life that God has allowed me to see, is losing additional muscle mass. So that's how we look at it for weight. But for me, it actually took a little bit of extra help on the weight loss side with things such as NAD, the B vitamins,
Mhm.
and I was already doing the Bs to help with my energy, but metabolism and vitamin D3, which I can't emphasize enough, you know, helping your immune function, but also in there helping, you know, all of those factors with getting your body to get back to a better metabolic rate.
Yeah.
And that took me probably well over a year after explant to even begin to kind of seeing some changes.
Mhm. So you can see in this process, like as we've talked about before, there is not a one-stop shop or answer for getting yourself where you need to be. Like, as we said, you'll go to a doctor and they'll have a test run and they'll be like, oh, you're fine. But how many doctors did you see throughout this process? And all of them were for something different. All of them had a different specialty.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that just,
And for me personally, like I said, I waited until after the explant because I had enough evidence
mhm.
there to show to get them out. And I believed that. And I believed God because He was the one who kept speaking to my spirit, giving me affirmation and giving me proof positive that it wasn't just me and I wasn't crazy and this was some fad and things that women were just, you know, wanting to talk about because we're women and we're all crazy women, you know.
well, I guarantee if you would have seen all of those doctors beforehand, they would have not connected the dots to breast implants.
No, they don't. And it's
Hmm.
because this is relatively new on the forefront in the past many
Yeah.
years with more people speaking out about it and more people learning about it. But interestingly enough, as a medical provider, I think just last year, I got some sort of an email that gave a slight alert, per se. I wouldn't call it an alert, but a notification is a better
Hmm.
word. That if you have women coming in with XXXX, we're wanting to update providers and let you know, please do screening for breast implant illness.
Mm.
So they are becoming more aware that there are things that need to be looked
Yeah.
at and asked, more of a holistic type approach. Even though you may not know how to direct them
Hmm.
or to manage that, you still need to find out because that puts an individual in a whole different, you know, ball game.
Hmm.
I mean, especially specialty practices are one thing, primary care doctors are another. But for anyone who hasn't explanted, for example, and I see women do this all the time that I've consulted with the past 7 years, say, hey, like I mentioned earlier, I've gone to Dr. X, Dr. Y, rheumatologist, this one and that one, and nobody can help.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course they can't help because you don't have the full picture, And that was the beauty of the explant because the doctor took pictures. And when she removed them from the body, and this is very important to make note of, capsules were intact on the implants, and I have the evidence and the proof and that they were removed properly.
Mm-hmm.
I have the toxicology and pathology reports. And you know me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very tangible chick. I actually have my own implants
Wow.
back. I have my capsules and I have them preserved.
Please tell me they're not in a
Be-
jar on your mantle.
no, they're not. I have something else in there that's really scary that I'll show you someday if you get to come over. But we won't talk about that on here. But at any rate, I have them in containers and
Mm-hmm.
they're stored away in my house. But I do from time to time use that for show and tell because it's helpful.
Yeah. It's,
It
it's
gives you
the
something to
tangible
look and
truth.
to see.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So, if there is someone struggling and they can't go out of state to get the help that you're describing, is there someone locally that you would recommend them reaching out to
For removal,
just for help in going the right direction? Is there a certain type of doctor that they could talk to here, Huntsville, Birmingham, just someone close?
I wish that I could tell you that I knew of providers who have a connectivity to
Mm-hmm.
the plastics industry, in particular with explant. Um, but here on the local, no, I don't. It requires world renowned experts who know and who have been in it for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
who have the tangible medical evidence, who have the scientific documented, proof. Because again, most people here are we're smaller scale. It's a lot of fast, rapid turnover. A lot of women who are still getting breast implants. And interestingly enough, for those of you who don't know it, and to me this is appalling to even recently find out, as a result of that FDA hearing that I mentioned that transpired regarding safety and efficacy, that yielded in all breast implants going forward. I think this became effective 2021 with a black box warning now. Plastic surgeons are required by law
Mm-hmm.
to tell any woman that comes in presenting wanting breast implants, well, I must discuss with you, Miss Smith. There's a chance you can develop autoimmune issues. There's a chance that hidden cancers can be developed between the capsule and the scar. BIAALCL is the acronym for it, for hidden cancers. Yes, I do know people who have had those cancers,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and battling for their life because of it. Um, all of these long list, page after page, yet I'm hearing from women that contact me that have gotten implants even just in the last 6 months, in the last year. The doctor didn't mention the black box.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm appalled by all of that. But just know that they do come with a black box warning. So if you're not familiar with what black box really means, look that up.
Well, I feel like even if you do hear, the side effects, like people hear side effects all the time, they're like, I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to
That
do
won't
it
bother
anyways.
me.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like I said before, it is not a huge topic that people discuss. So
Right,
they're just
right.
like, that's a very small amount. But I mean, as you said, there was 200,000 people in that group talking about having issues. So,
Well, the beautiful thing currently is that there are multiple plastic surgeons now who understand breast implant illness and who have changed their Hippocratic oath and they've decided they no longer want to put breast implants into women's bodies. So they're joining forces
mhm.
and they're exclusively performing explants and they are all over social media. I can tell you all day long for anyone who wants to contact me about any surgeon if you have interest in watching live videos and seeing what it looks like or looking at the way things are when they're removed from the body.
I'll leave that up to y'all.
Some of
That's
us like
not going to
that
be
and
me.
some of us don't. But it's not what you would imagine with something being a bloody, gory kind of deal. It's not that way at all.
Yeah, but I can't even get
But
a shot. So
well, okay, you're like my husband
I'm a
then.
wimp.
Yeah, I gave him a shot when we first married, and he cried over that
Oh,
for 30
yeah.
years. So,
I'm a baby. I can't help it.
but it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, there are plenty out there who do exclusively explant, and they're all over Instagram, and they talk about it. There are some that are very good, and of course, I'm not going to be unprofessional, and I wouldn't dare mention anybody's name in a negative way. But there are just some that, of course, like in anything in life, there are good people and there are bad
Yeah.
people, and there are people who claim to be certain things and who are not, and who deflate saline implants even before removing them out of a woman's
Oh,
body
wow.
and not telling her that.
So, we like to end every episode with a final word of a verse or something that has gotten you through life. Something's been meaningful to you. We tie everything back to the Lord because everything is from Him. So, what is something that has kind of stuck with you through this whole process?
What has really resonated with me, Jade, is a word that I'd like to define and go into a little explanatory for me personally.
Yeah.
And that word is overcome.
Okay.
The definition, if you look up the definition of overcome, it means to get the better of a struggle. That's fitting.
Sounds pretty awesome.
To defeat, to prevail over opposition. Boy, that opposing little thing on my shoulder, I prevailed over that. It is to win, it is to conquer. We have to be fighters, we have to be warriors. My scripture that resonated with me about overcoming comes from John chapter 16, verse 33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So that trouble that came my way, those things that I faced, I overcame because, I had the philosophy that Jesus has. When these things come, He will bring peace.
Yeah.
When we have struggles in life happen because it makes us the wiser. Yeah, we kind of feel like poor, pitiful me at the time when it's happening, but it grows us ultimately closer to God. My healing victory wasn't by any means abstract or just some kind of a believed concept. It was tangible and it was documented with proof. I further went on, even additionally, to see an orthopedist. And I didn't mention that to you earlier, but I did. And the first thing that he said was, "Wow, have you had a horrible accident with looking at this full body MRI of your spine?" No, sir. Second question was, "Miss Brooks, have you ever had breast implants?" So I did find a doctor who was knowledgeable,
Yeah.
who had a wife who had been through BIA, ALCL, and he was familiar with Forustier's disease, which was diagnosed in my spine. And one of these days I'll share with you my MRI results on what was there. But that's why I love water now. Water helps my bones and my spine. I built a life that manifests the victory of Jesus, indestructible to the attacks of the enemy, and that's what we have to do. Satan never wins a battle against a daughter of the Most High King, and I've always considered myself, as a Christian, a daughter of the Most High King. You have to rebuild your environment physically, spiritually, most importantly of all, to make it hospitable to your body, to your life, your mind, to the spiritual attacks that Satan can throw at you. And he knows he simply cannot win. Let's face it, anything that impacts you mentally is going to impact your physical health. When you struggle, it makes your body weaker, it makes you worse. Autoimmune disease, talk about a double whammy.
Yeah.
Anybody that has autoimmune conditions know that if you go through stress, Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be in bed for a couple days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not nice. But you daily proclaim victory in Jesus, healing and the power of faith, and the positivity of a sound mind when you keep your mind focused in and on Jesus Christ, because He alone, in my opinion, is the only way to help you overcome.
Mm.
And this adversity, He helped me to totally overcome.
Amen.
Amen.
That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I think it is an amazing story, and I hope that you learned something from it. If anything, I hope that it sent you down at least a small rabbit hole of finding and discovering and just knowing that you're not alone. Sometimes we feel like we're the only one and we get really down on ourselves, but you're not. We see you and God sees you. Healing isn't perfect, and neither are we, but God's faithfulness, that's the one thing that never burns. Deborah's story reminds us that listening to your body is an act of love, courage, and yes, a little stubbornness. If this series spoke to you, share it with someone who needs permission to listen to their body, their heart, and God's still small voice. Thanks for being here, friend. Until next time, keep finding the beauty in your own burnt toast. Bye, guys.